Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my Storyteller horoscope for you for March 2019. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, if you'd like to book a live reading. Also, if you love the way I teach astrology and want to learn, there may be some slots in my astrology apprenticeship program. You can see more about and order my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days, which has now become an Amazon bestseller. So you can see more about that at anniehelpsyou.com or at radicalprayerbook.com. So there's lots of energy for Aquarius this month, March 2019. We've got Venus moving through the sign of Aquarius. So at some point in this month, each of you will have Venus bump up against your Aquarius placement, and that's a beautiful boost. We'll talk more about that. We've got this full moon in a fellow air sign that will aspect your sign positively. And we've got a lot of energy in your third house, which is an air house, which is super busy. So there's a lot of energy supporting Aquarius energy in general. I want to show you the visuals of the things that I'm thinking about most for you this month, so that you can follow along and you can get more details while seeing the actual charts that I'm using. So let's look at those charts now. Hello, Aquarius friends. Okay, so now that you have the summary of what's going on, I want to show you the visual of the things that I just described for those of you who like to learn astrology. Okay. So the first thing we have to establish to go deeper into learning is what placement of Aquarius you are. There are 30 degrees in the sign of Aquarius, and so it's separated into 3 parts. So the first part is pretty much the January born, or 0 to 9 degrees. This is also relevant if you're watching for your rising or moon. Middle degree, about the first 10 days or so of February, or 10 to 19 degrees if you're watching for your rising or moon, or if you know your sun sign, you can use these degrees, or sun degree. Late is going to be around February 11th for the rest until the rest of the sun, or 20 to 29 degrees. Now note that these are estimates because the sun does not move into Aquarius on the same day every year. These designations could be off by a degree or so, but it doesn't really matter. Whatever you're closest to is going to be the chart that looks most like yours. Okay, so if you missed that, then just do me a favor and go back and get it rather than checking with me to see which you are. That's why I made the visual, so you can figure that out. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is going to be true for early, middle, and late degree placements, so it doesn't really matter which chart we use to look at this. And that is, for pretty much the whole month, Venus is going to be in your sign. That means throughout March, at some point, Venus is going to cross over every single Aquarius point. So all of you. And if you have more than one Aquarius placement in your chart, you'll have Venus cross over all of your Aquarius placements. I do recommend for those who are wanting to go deeper into astrology to find a place to run a free birth chart online and look to see how many placements you have in Aquarius. That's the glyph there. And, you know, if you just kind of pretend this is a birth chart, you can see that if someone was born on this day, they would have had all these placements in Pisces, they'd have all these placements in Aries, they'd have these placements in Sag, they'd have these in Cap. So when we're looking at our chart, we have the planets are all somewhere. And many people have more than one placement in Aquarius. And that would be really good for you to know, because then as we have transits of planets through Aquarius, you'll know if you're having, you know, more than one run-in of the planet that's moving to your particular placements. But in general, Venus crossing over Aquarius placements is super sweet. Venus rules love, beauty, and money. If you missed my February report, then I highly recommend you go back there, because I gave a lesson on Venus with my grandma Marge being the epitome of Venus. So you can understand Venus energies better by going back to see that lesson. But Venus rules love, beauty, money, harmony, aesthetics, and whenever it bumps up against something, it usually brings sweetness. All right, so that's the first thing that Aquariuses need to know this month. Okay, so the second thing to know about this month is that on the 20th, or it could be in the days thereabouts, depending on your time zone, we not only have the spring equinox, but we also have a full moon in Libra. And the reason why this is relevant is because Libra is a fellow air sign to Aquarius. So that's going to be at 0 degrees. So remember, this is the third month in a row, January, February, March, where there are supermoons. I also gave a lesson about supermoons in the previous reports. But the supermoon is when the Earth and Moon are actually closer together. So the gravitational effects at the full moon time are way more intense. Now, by the time you're listening to this, you would have already experienced the eclipse at the end of January, and holy hat, was that intense. Yee! Part of why it was so intense is because it was a supermoon lunar eclipse, okay? So the full moon that we have here around the 20th is not going to be as intense because it was the eclipse, and that's what brought some of the intensity, but it is the third supermoon in a row. So, that means end at 0 degrees. So new beginnings are continuing in major ways, and expect a lot of intensity around in the days around this full moon. Many people have trouble sleeping, even 5 days or so before, days after. It can, make certain symptoms worsen if people have them, and that could warrant checking something out, for your health. But especially note, if you are a person who's on the Aquarius cusp, like the Cap Aquarius cusp, so your birthday is around, well, actually the day of the eclipse is pretty intense time for y'all, like around the 20th, 21st, and I'd say even up to like 22nd, 23rd, 24th, like those first days, this moon is going to be in a trine with your Aquarius placement. So if you have anything from around 0 to 5 degrees in Aquarius, or your birthday is in those time frames, this is an extra boost, and this is super positive because this is a trine, which is the most favorable aspect of astrology. Okay, so for early, middle, and late degree placements, you are all going to have this energy focused in the 8th house. Some of you, here, let's look at this. Some of you very late degree placements, it might be borderline in the 7th, but the effects are still energetically very similar because, okay, you can see there that for late degree placements, some of it could be in the 7th, but for the rest of you, it's very clearly in the 8th, and for all Aquarius placements, this brings the drama, fruition, coming to culmination, coming to a head, coming to light, energies of the full moon, especially being a supermoon, super intense, in your relationship sector. Okay, so this is this full moon, the days around this full moon around the 20th are going to very much feature relationships, and it could be relationships with like a bank or debt or taxes or intimacy, your romantic relationship. It can be family relationships. It can be something having to do with money and partnerships, loans, anything like that. But very much energetically related to your partnerships. So, positive drama, negative drama, things coming to light, hidden things being seen, breakthroughs coming through in that space for all Aquarius placements. Okay, so something else on my mind for all Aquarius placements is that Mars, and that's going to be for early. Let's see, whoopsie, here we go. Mars here in the 3rd. Mars for the middle in the 3rd, and Mars in the late for the 3rd. Okay, so in this case, this is true for all early, middle, and late degree placements. Mars is going to be accentuating your 3rd house, and this is the house of mobility. This can make you very restless, like, I gotta go do something. And do remember that Mercury in retrograde can be a fine time to travel. Like if you just want to take a trip and just get away, it is a misconception that you shouldn't travel in Mercury retrograde. You just have to be more careful, and it lends itself more to flexible plans with plans that have been made or that you're trying to make being more likely to shift, or miscommunications, missing flights, things like that. So, like you have to check your car better, just things that you have to be more careful attending to details and not forgetting important things or losing things. But in general, it's a great time to get moving, even if it's locally, and you will find that you're very restless. So you'll want to be using that energy, because Mars is, I call it the border collie of the of the zodiac. So it's like when you have the border collie of the zodiac whipping through your house of transportation, that you know, in mobility, you really want to move. This is also a communication sector, so you may find that you're wanting to get back in touch with people. And a lot of times this will favor connecting with people from the past, like lots of blasts from the past, and connecting with people from the past is usually very well indicated. And either you can prompt that or it just may come to you. Okay, so these are the things that are most on my mind for Aquarius specifically. Now I want to give you more details about the general transits that you absolutely need to know, some important dates to look out for. So we'll go into that information now. So the general transits of March 2019 carry the energy of sudden changes amidst a quiet rest. March continues the trend that started in February of 2019 with more sweet aspects than challenging ones, which is very exciting. So this dreamy and creative Pisces energy is going to dominate the month of March. Then around the 20th, as the sun moves into Aries, the climate will change. The energy will change, but most of the month is covered in this quiet creativity after this push of the window that we had that opened at the end of December and went into the end of February, beginning of March. So it's a great time to experiment and work in the backdrop. Things from the past are very likely to come back. Blessings from the past, things you've done from the past, projects from the past, people from the past. There's a strong tilt with the retrograde energies. So Mercury will officially be in retrograde from March 5th through the 28th. Depending on your time zone, those dates could toggle a little bit. But the whole month, and even starting February 19th and going to April 17th, there's the retrograde transit, because there's a pre-transit shadow period and a post-transit shadow period when the energies are starting to shift. So it's a long transit. Making commitments to short-term arrangements could be perfectly fine, but just know that in general, the energy shows a shorter term agreement or a shorter term energy. So things that you do in this time, if you're intending them to be long term, they often wind up being shorter term than expected, or if they do make it into the long term, they get seriously called into question or have to change dramatically in order to be able to persevere. But for short term things, interim plans, things like that, it can be perfectly fine. It's great for trying on things, continuing with things you've already been doing, editing, anything like that. Also watch paperwork and other agreement details carefully, because Mercury ruling communication can interfere with the clarity of information that you get at this time, and things agreed to will likely be shifted, or you might not know all the information. Also, things involving transportation are more likely to come up. So problems with your car, trips, changes to plans, those are all common. But in general, the month has definitely more sweet aspects than challenging ones, and it's a very nice rest in between these push points. Okay, so once we start to get into April, it's going to be time to push again, and you'll start to feel that energy starting at the end of March, but it's going to brew and get stronger and more clear as we get into April. One of the twists, or the big twist this month, is amidst this smooth and introspective flow, Uranus is moving back into Taurus to stay until, you know, years from now. So generally the transit is around 7 years. It popped in last year to Taurus and then it went out. And as you may recall, the energy as it popped in is or was instigating earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and wild weather that has still continued. Also, there have been a lot of things going on in the news that relate to the breakup of old systems and the solidity of intact systems that are getting disrupted. And Uranus moving through Taurus, this is very typical of that energy. So these kind of changes and disruptions and volatility probably will shift. So our relationship to the changes is what we get to have control over. So these changes to old systems can be a very welcome thing if things are stodgy and not working. But in the places where there's some security, sometimes that can be upset in these times. And this goes all the way down, you know, starting at the global level, all the way down to the individual experience. So Uranus bringing changes there amidst this quiet time and beyond. In general, the commitment for, or the recommendation for this time is to keep your commitments as light as possible and as flexible as possible. You can certainly do things, but just know that things that are planned could get called into question. There could be shifts. They could still work out, but there's definitely a lot more of a kind of a last minute flowing, flexible energy that works well with this time. So I'm going to give you the days that there are sweet aspects. Do know that even if I give you a date that's supposed to have a sweet aspect, you can feel that aspect days before or days after. And some days have more than one aspect, with one of them being sweet and one of them being challenging. So you really just need to tune into your intuition with this awareness. The dates I'm going to give you, you can also find written as well as explanations of all the aspects and what you can expect with them when you go to AnnieHelpsYou.com and sign up for my free email newsletter. Then I send out a written version of this general report a month beforehand so that you have it to look at and make your plans and you can understand the energies at play. But in general, try not to stick too heavily to a certain date as being a certain way, because the carryover of the aspects can definitely, stretch over a period of time. So you just kind of have to feel your way through. Okay, so the dates with the sweet vibes: March 2nd, 6th, 8th, 9th, 13th, 14th, 17th, 20th, 27th, and 28th. And the ones to look out for a likelihood of stress and challenges and drama or overstimulation or general awkwardness: March 1st, 5th, 6th, 14th, 15th, 22nd, and 28th. So you can see there are less of those aspects that are more challenging. So I'm just going to hit a couple of other highlights here, some of the dates that are most calling out to me to discuss. The rest of them, like I said, you can sign up for the newsletter and you can see all of my aspects that I put on here for you in the newsletter. Okay, so on March 1st, it kind of starts out with a bang with an aspect with Venus and Uranus. So often that can bring jolts to love or money or your certainty or self-esteem. So just kind of look out for that. But there is another sweet aspect, or a sweet aspect the day after, that could kind of help to bring a happy outcome from that, or could soften the energy. The days around March 5th, Mercury actually goes retrograde, and there's more awkwardness around the days before and after it changes station. So, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, more awkwardness, more changes, just try to keep your scheduling light. One of the big days of the month is March 6th, the new moon at almost 16 degrees of Pisces, and this is also going to be conjunct Neptune, the Sun conjunct Neptune. So you can check out my blog if you go to Annie Helps You, or if you just search for Making Powerful New Moon Wishes in Pisces, you can find my blog that helps to guide you using that energy in the best way for creating the life of your dreams. But in general, this is an extremely dreamy and introspective month, and this moon is especially so because of the sign it's in and because of the Neptune aspect. But it's an artist's delight, and I really love this time for rest and retreat and rejuvenation, and being surrounded by inspiration, going to an inspiring place. Definitely watch your security all month, but this particular transit, things going on behind, your conscious knowing with internet or home or other security, just be on guard there. Okay, March 6th, the date that Uranus moves into Taurus. Sometimes we see things happen to the date or very close to the date that are notable, although things have already been happening since Uranus has been marching back towards Taurus. Things have been really getting stirred up over the last couple of months. All right, some sweet aspects and challenging aspects that I listed the dates already, but the other big date I want to talk about is that full moon at 0 degrees of Libra on March 20th. I talked about this in some of the individual reports as well, but this is the 3rd supermoon in a row. And it's the 3rd one at 0 degrees, which is the 1st degree of the sign. So this is denoting major new beginnings, major clean slates, major breakup of old ways, some of those ways we don't want to leave, and so we could be resisting, but some of it could be welcome change that we've been working for a long time, and just sort of karma clearing up and lots of magic. I really love this full moon, even though it will be intense for better and worse. Full moons are always intense, but this is also a supermoon, and it's also at the that 1st degree. So think about the intensity that we had at the eclipse time around January 21st, and then the full moon in February, those supermoons tend to bring more emotion and more power to the experience. This is also the spring equinox. This is also the first day of the astrological new year, which is a very exciting time to do a vision board. Also, the new moon in Aries, which will happen in April, is one of the other best times to do a vision board, planting seeds for what you would like to create in your life. But this March 20th time is very, very powerful, very, very powerful. There's also 3 awesome aspects that are occurring simultaneously. Mars in Taurus is trining Pluto, and Mercury in Pisces is making a sweet aspect to Saturn, or maybe that was it. So there's 2 aspects. And those are just adding to the beautiful, powerful nature of this time. So then on March 28th, we have, or the 27th, depending on your time zone, Mercury is going direct. So again, the awkwardness around those dates, to just be extra careful driving, walking, with your communications, your devices, don't drop them in the toilet. This is more likely to happen during these Mercury retrograde cycles where your cars or other vehicles or communication devices need some attention or extra care. Don't text while you're driving. Don't text while you're walking, if you can help it. Oh, one other thing, we started out the month with that challenging aspect with Venus on March 1st, and now we end the month with a sweet aspect with Venus. So sweet surprises in money and love can come with this one. So it's a nice counterbalance to that jolt at the beginning of the month. So if you love how I do astrology and you'd love a live reading, you can go to anniehelpsyou.com, click on Work With Me, and see my astrology coaching section. If you would love to learn astrology because you resonate with how I teach, there may be some slots left in my astrology apprenticeship program. I would love to have you aboard. If you think I go into details in the reports, then you should see the details I go into the astrology apprenticeship program. Definitely check out my new book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days. It has already become an Amazon bestseller, so it's very exciting. So you can either go to radicalprayerbook.com, or you can search for my name and Radical Prayer in Amazon. Also, that should start to be available internationally at different booksellers. You should be able to get that at kind of brick and mortar bookstores as well. So go to anniehelpsyou.com, go to cozybysweetstarlight.com for written horoscopes from me. I also do a write-up talking about different things than I do in the videos that supplement, and if the videos are a little bit intense, the cozybysweetstarlight.com horoscopes are the antidote to that. They're super light, super easy to follow, and give you some different aspects to understand. Okay, so you can go to my husband's website, iamhelios.com, iamhelios.com. He does tarot readings. He also does some astrology readings, and he does visual work with audio-visual work. So you can check out his offerings there. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.